This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. Just more things that we all talk about are being confirmed right in front of our eyes on a day in, day out basis, yet we all still get called conspiracy theorists, even though what we're speaking is conspiracy, which again is by definition a secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful, the action of plotting or conspiring. So it's not a theory because it's very clear that there's a group of people, a group of global elites, as they like to call themselves, who are conspiring to ruin and take control of all of our lives through every means that they have access to, which is pretty much every means imaginable. The media and mind control, and of course, all the other wars and rumors of wars that we see. But really importantly, at center stage right now that no one's paying attention to is weaponized weather being blamed on the climate. And this is a perfect example because Dubai has gotten the same amount of rainfall that would normally take 2 years. So 2 years worth of rain in one day. And Dubai is practically underwater, put there by their own government. This is not a conspiracy because Dubai, on top of all things, has even admitting that they use cloud seeding to create rain in Dubai. Even though everybody out there thinks that all of us talking about cloud seeding is a conspiracy, it is in fact a fact. And Dubai admits to cloud seeding because of droughts. So what I usually do is I talk about, well, how come in America when there's huge droughts and lakes are drying up and they blame it on heat waves and the climate and we're losing our produce and our food supply is in trouble because of droughts, why we don't cloud seed then and actually water the crops, because they don't want you to know that they can actually do that and actually solve a problem because they want you dependent on them for food and they're the ones killing the supply chain. But on top of that, the government in America doesn't want you to realize that we've used cloud seeding and things like Operation Popeye during the Vietnam War to actually create monsoons, because that would cause them a problem. The problem would be you realizing that the government could do what they're doing in Dubai because they plan on doing it to you here in America as well, and they already have with a lot of these tornadoes and hurricanes that I've covered. Let's start by taking a look at what it looks like right now in Dubai.
We got to talk about this, Stephen. So incredible video coming into Fox Weather. This is intense rain within clusters of thunderstorms that caused this historic flooding in the United Arab Emirates. In a single day, the city of Dubai received 2 years worth of rain. That amounted to 6.26 inches of rain as of Tuesday night, while the city usually sees just 3.14 inches in a whole year. Standing water inundated the roads, as you can see, and even the tarmac at the international airport there. Dubai International, by the way, is the second busiest airport in the world, and it came to a standstill because of that.
Several inches of rain falling over the United Arab Emirates, prompting flight cancellations at the second busiest airport in the world, school shutdowns and traffic at a standstill. Some amazing flooding conditions there. Bonnie Quinn has had a front row seat to it. We go out to her in Dubai for an update on what's happening. Bonnie.
Well, Romain, as you can see right behind me, this is part of the DIFC complex within Dubai, which is its own self-regulated complex of financial institutions. We're talking about more than 50 hedge funds, more than 200 banks based here, more than 100 insurance companies and 350 wealth managers. All told, more than 41,000 people work here on a daily basis. That was impacted, as you can see today. Dubai is not a walking city. It is very much a city that runs on taxis, Ubers, and driving. Public transportation fairly limited in Dubai. Within a few hours of this rain starting, you can see what happened. Cars were abandoned everywhere. I'm looking down from the 34th floor of a hotel room. Cars are abandoned outside right now. The cars that are managing to make it through are being guided through by emergency vehicles, and it really is a sight to see. Dubai every now and then gets these large rainfalls. However, infrastructurally, it's not quite able to manage them. It doesn't have the drainage, although it needs the rainfall for extra water security.
So that's what's going on in Dubai, right? 2 years worth of rain in one day in a place that is usually completely dry, a place that admits that they have to use cloud seeding in order to make it rain, and then they tell you how wonderful cloud seeding is. But if you think that the government would be using cloud seeding against its people, then you're a conspiracy theorist, because it's very clear that the government has all of our best interests at mind. That's why they gaslight us around the clock. They take away our freedoms, take away our free speech. They want to grab your guns. And most importantly, they want to make sure that you are at odds with your neighbor so that you don't realize that the government are the ones conspiring to do this. Here's Dubai admitting to cloud seeding, bragging about cloud seeding. But of course, if you think that they're doing this right now, well, then you're a conspiracy nut.
How is the UAE making it rain? The process is called cloud seeding. The UAE has been leading the effort to seed clouds and increase precipitation. The country is located in one of the hottest and driest regions on Earth, where rainfall remains at less than 100 millimeters or 3.9 inches a year on average. So, how does it actually work? The salt canisters attached to the plane's wings release salt nanoparticles into the clouds. This stimulates and accelerates the condensation process and produces droplets big enough to fall as rain.
The UAE is one of the driest countries on Earth, with an annual rainfall of roughly 120 millimeters. As a result, it has to get creative when it comes to finding solutions for water. In the early 2000s, the UAE started performing regular cloud seeding operations. Cloud seeding is the process of increasing the amount of rain produced from clouds.
Some of these clouds, by nature, sometimes it rains, for example, only 40 to 50% of its rain that processed in the cloud that comes as rainfall. So by these operations, we try to increase this amount by, for example, from 15 to 30%.
So how does it work? It starts here, inside the National Center of Meteorology, where a team is constantly monitoring forecasts, looking for potential clouds to seed. The operations only work with cumulus clouds, which are vertical in shape.
Research 5 operation, can you read me?
Once they spot a cloud, they radio the pilots, who then take to the air armed with hydroscopic flares filled with a mixture of potassium chloride, sodium chloride, magnesium, and other materials. It's essentially salt. When the plane reaches the right clouds, the pilots release the flares.
These salts basically attracts the moisture and try to make it condense. So these particles becomes nuclei of condensation, and then when these droplets condense, and then they hit each other, and then they form a bigger droplet that the air cannot hold it any longer in the air, so it forms as rain.
In 2017, the UAE performed 242 cloud seeding operations. The government is confident the operations are increasing the amount of rainfall, but it's difficult to gauge.
Until now, there is no way that you can measure the success rate for each individual cloud. There are no two clouds are the same, and you don't know, for example, before actually you see the cloud, is it going to rain by itself or not, and by how much?
The country has also invested in rain research, offering millions of dollars in grant money to innovative researchers and projects.
So there they are on record, and this has been known for, decades upon decades that they can cloud seed. We all know that, right? We all know about geoengineering, but there are people that actually don't. So if you're new to all this stuff, hello. Now you could see that the government has the ability to, quote unquote, make it rain. And no, I'm not talking about dropping dollar bills on you from the sky. I'm talking about manufacturing storms and manipulating weather while also poisoning you from the air at the same time with aluminum, barium, and graphene oxide. So, of course, naturally, after this occurs, they have to immediately start doing some spin damage control because that's what they do best, right? Because they don't do much very well anymore. Their propaganda is so bad, but again, it somehow works on some of these people. We have articles already out there. No, Dubai's floods weren't caused by cloud seeding. Heavy rain's been triggered by flash flooding in Dubai. It's not because of cloud seeding. And then you even have Bloomberg, oopsies, they slip up with an article that says, Dubai grinds to standstill as cloud seeding worsens the flooding. Then you have Bloomberg with articles out there about geoengineering technology, like how cloud seeding boosts rainfall and why that's controversial. Dubai airport closed, buildings damaged via cloud seeding. I mean, how many other articles do you have out there? Well, you even have Bloomberg saying Dubai grinds to standstill as cloud seeding worsens the flooding. So which one is it? I mean, how are you going to spin it? Well, I guess at this point, it doesn't matter how they spin it because the suckers will believe it. All they have to do is this is the newest propaganda that we see that they use, right? They write the word NO, comma, And then whatever the theory is that we're talking about, which isn't a theory, which is a fact, they just discredit it. So in this case, no, cloud seeding isn't the reason for it in Dubai, even though we literally know for a fact that they manufacture rain there and they've been openly admitting it for years. So what happened? Oh, a real rainstorm came through out of nowhere, we're supposed to believe. That gave them a place that doesn't normally get a lot of rain, and they just happened to have flash flooding that gave them 2 years worth of rain in one day. Give me an utter break. This is what the governments of the world are doing right now to their citizens. They are flooding you out. They are wiping you out with tornadoes. They are preparing to tsunami you underwater. And they're also lighting you on fire. Look at all the stories over the last just couple of months, right? We can go back to August of last year. We can look at Maui, right? We can look at Texas, lighting them on fire down there, up in Canada, California a few years ago. Very obvious direct energy weapons, so much so that we suddenly haven't heard a peep about Maui over the last couple of months, when at first we had celebrities rolling out and getting just ripped apart by people because everybody was suspicious of it. And they said, you know what? We're just going to bury the story. We're going to bury the story because by burying it, people will just forget about it. Because that's how mind control works. If they don't keep repeating it to you, you'll just move on with your life. That's why I tell people all the time, whatever's in the news, whatever you're talking about, they want you to talk about it. They're putting it out there so it's right in front and center in your life. And then you go and repeat it to somebody else at work or on the phone, and then your perception of what's happening in the world starts to change, right? Well, when Maui happened and they started realizing that people were questioning direct energy weapons and not believing the narrative, that a wildfire started on an island, and we even saw video footage of the ocean itself on fire, that people went, all right, even the most skeptical people of conspiracy theories were starting to say, this looks a little bit weird. Why didn't the sirens go off? Where are the missing kids? And then they just dropped it, right? Same thing with Texas. Oh, wow. You know, there's a climate problem in Texas. Everything's on fire. And then people go, wait a minute. Texas Panhandle, you're telling me that all the cattle is killed off? 1/3 of the population's cattle supply? We're not talking about that anymore, right? And then stories like this come out in correlation with what I was just covering here in America, where they're telling us that the weather radar system keeps going online and offline, online and offline. Storms are popping up that weren't in the radar, right? They're just popping up. So people are unprepared. They're caught off guard. They're either stranded or they're unprepared for a tornado to come through, so they don't get underground and shelter. This is all being done by design around the earth right now. They're using the weather. And this is why when we go back to people like JFK, and we go back to the 40s, 50s, we heard governments talk about weaponized weather, and nobody blinked. And this was what, 70 years ago they were talking about it? Now you could watch whatever TV show propaganda you want from your phone while you're sitting on a toilet somewhere or even in the shower. So you don't think they have the ability to do this? Of course they have the ability to do it. They'll admit to you that they have the ability to do it when it's perceived as a good thing and shining a good light on the government, like in Dubai, right? Like when they can come out and say, hey, you know, they can cloud seed here and cause rain. It's a miracle. It's a government, it's an amazing invention from the government to help the people, right? But when you bring up this same technology they have there, when we have droughts in certain spots, like I've done over the years, I said, well, if they have the ability to do it and they admit it, why don't they put these droughts out? Why don't they make sure? Because the number one thing we should be talking about every day is how we eat, how we have water, how we take care of ourselves from that perspective, right? Because we can't live. I mean, this is basic science. I know they'll question it. They'll probably tell us that this guy's making up science now, but I'm pretty sure humans need food and water to survive. So when we hear stories about droughts, and then at the same time we hear stories about how the government is telling farmers to light their crops on fire because they're afraid that somebody might get a common cough because of a virus, then you start going, wow, they really don't care about the food supply chain. Well, of course they don't. Thus, they don't want you to know that they have the ability to create rain. Thus, they don't want you to know they have the ability to control weather. They want you to believe in these theories they put in your head, like you can't control Mother Nature. What are you going to do about weather? Can't do anything about weather. All we can do is band together. The only thing we can do about weather, that's what they're going to tell us eventually, is how we could all work on our carbon emissions and our carbon footprint. Then we could stop these horrible weather patterns from developing. And all we have to do is lock ourselves inside our homes and give up our rights. And then they won't, then they'll say, well, then there won't be this crazy weather patterns anymore. In other words, they'll say, look, you enslave yourself in your home and you don't come out and show your face, we won't put a tornado through your head. That's pretty much what they're saying. So you have Dubai, 2 years worth of water in one day. If you're suspicious about it, well, they'll make sure you immediately find articles out there from Wired and Bloomberg who are talking about cloud seeding, but then trying to deflect that this was just a flash flood that occurred. You know, the one place that really openly admits to cloud seeding. And really what should occur is when people see this is two things. One, they should say, wow, wait a minute. They're admitting that they're talking about cloud seeding, debunking, but wait, you could actually make rain and do this stuff? And we're not talking about making it rain in a club with dollar bills. Like they could create rain. Yeah, and that's been around for a long period of time. Okay, set that to the side. The second thing you should look at is, wow, could a government use this as a weapon against its civilians to force compliance on whatever they're trying to do? And you should say, I guess they potentially can since they have the technology. And then you should look at the overall picture and say, you know what? There's a lot of tension in the world, and it seems like it's all coming from state-run media, which means it's all coming from the governments who have this technology, who don't ever want anyone to realize who's doing it. So maybe I should start being suspicious of all of these weather events, these weather phenomenons that are happening, from wildfires to floods to tornado alleys to hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, hitting specific spots in specific locations like we see in the specific coasts that are being targeted in Florida and in Texas. And then it should go ding, 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 ding. Oh, now I get why they wanted to silence all those conspiracy people so much, because they were actually telling the truth about the technology the government has, and then they were actually telling the truth about why they keep telling us every day that we should hate our neighbors and we should hate people who don't vote the same way that we do. Meanwhile, they're doing all of this stuff telling us that we need to drive electric vehicles that they can control. We need to kill off our food supply chain so they can control that too. And we need to stay indoors as often as possible so that we don't affect the carbon emissions going on in the world while they're flying around in bomber jets, going to private meetings every single day, talking about how they can kill us and control us. Yeah, you see why they silence all of us? Because when you start thinking, it all makes sense. But when you start thinking, then you become a problem to the state. And when you're a problem to the state, what they do is they silence you. I'm living proof. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.